The Seattle Kraken start a new era, and it starts with a home game. Unfortunately, it didn't start with a win.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day. For those of us meeting for the first time, my name is Erica L. Ayala. I am your host of Locked On Kraken. As you can see, I am here after all the festivities at Climate Pledge Arena, bringing you this episode live from Seattle, Washington. It was an energized start to the year in so many ways. I got to talk to Dan Bylsma a little bit about his training camp and preseason methodology, philosophy. And we also in that time talked about when we also talked about in that time when he would know that the work that he and the staff put together in the preseason, in training camp, was working, was successful. And he did temper expectations that it likely, at least for him and his staff, was not going to be after game one. And if you think that a win is what means that this is off to the right start, then you might be disappointed. The Seattle Kraken fall 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues in what Jordan Eberle called basically a botched 4 minutes in a 60-minute game. Let's hear what he had to say post-game.
Saw a lot of good. Saw a sleepy 4 minutes, but I think that all in all, it was. I thought we played a pretty good, 56 minutes, and then 4 minutes killed us.
And if you've been listening to the show for a while, my everydayers, my OGers, then you know that what I'm going to say, what I am about to say, I say with passion, with pride, with so much joy. That what you just heard from Jordan Eberle, captain material. But you don't have to take my word for it. That's right. Jordan Eberle named just the second ever Seattle Kraken captain after, of course, Mark Giordano. We also had a few other players that will be alongside him as leaders, very familiar names. Adam Larson, Yanni Gourde, and Jaden Schwartz once again will wear the A. And here's what Yanni Gourde had to say about Jordan Eberle getting the C.
Being named captain.
I'm super excited. I was so excited when I heard the news, and he played so well tonight again, winning wall battle, doing all the little things, blocking shots. He's a leader, and he showed it again tonight. He had a great performance.
He took a hit to make the play for Vince on that first goal. Does that say a little something about his game, would you say?
I mean, just winning that puck battle was tremendous. He gets out in the lane and goes for that puck, and he's able to win that battle against Parayko. I think that was an elite play by Ebbs on that first goal.
But that's not all, Seattle Kraken fans. Matty Beniers is one of your captains as well. Jordan Eberle was an alternate captain, very young in his NHL career. He reflected on that, as well as what makes Matty Beniers not just so special from a hockey perspective, but why Eberle appreciates playing with Matty B. Let's hear that.
The one thing that always impresses me with him at a young age, he's a guy who I've seen a lot of young guys come in, they worry about stats, they worry about their personal gains. Matty's not like that. You see him working on face-offs. You see him on his defensive side of the puck. I've said this all along. He looks up to guys like Patrice Bergeron. He wants to win, and you don't. Obviously we all want to win, but at a young age, he really does want to win, and that's contagious. As an older guy who doesn't have a cup, that's obviously the only thing I'm looking for. I lean on that. So he's obviously well earned, and he's earned that A well.
So overall, a lot of mutual respect. But again, the reason that I have always said Jordan Eberle not only can be, but should be the next captain of the Seattle Kraken, well, it's exactly in how he went about not just post game today, but later in the episode. I actually want to take you back to the last practice the Seattle Kraken had. Oh, we talking about practice. I also like the fact that the team actually didn't have morning skate today. I might change my mind about that later, but there were just some great things that have made me always believe Jordan Eberle could be a great captain for this team, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. But I wanted to start with some good news. Now we have to talk about some other good and promising news, but ultimately this loss to the St. Louis Blues. So we're going to get into that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Now, just like the Seattle Kraken, a lot of us, hopefully all of us, are driven by the opportunity to get better and to be better. And sometimes when you're looking to level up, you got to find the right team. And instead of searching for the right team, Indeed helps you match. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. Additionally, Indeed will help you leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day because Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And the better the algorithm gets for you means the quicker you can find the right teammates to help you level up your business. So if you need to hire, then you need Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 credit, a sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com. So just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now. Support the show, support your business by finding the right candidates, and make sure you let Indeed know that you heard about Indeed.com on this podcast. Remember, that's Indeed.com/LOCKEDON. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken. I just took in the Seattle Kraken game. They lost 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues. But let's talk about what I liked about this game. First of all, Moxy. Okay, Moxy, baby. This is what will define the Dan Bylsma era. And it's exactly why I've been saying for a while that Jordan Eberle can and should be our next captain. Well, I don't have to say it anymore. I don't have to convince you because it has come to pass. And before I talk about the game, I actually want you to hear what Jordan Eberle, how he characterized himself as a leader. And I think you're going to see that it fits into exactly what Dan Bylsma is trying to build here in Seattle. And I have a clip and I'm asking him a question about Moxy, or a new hockey word that I learned, juice. I mean, I don't know. I guess I never used the term juice. I know it's used in hockey, but I'm going to start using juice a little bit more. Can the Seattle Kraken find the juice? Do they have the juice? I think Jordan Eberle has the juice. Here's what he had to say about how he plays and what kind of a leader he is.
Yeah, I had an A pretty early. I think I was 22. I'm not sure what it was. But I've learned from a lot of I've been around a lot of good captains. I've played with a lot of good leaders. My personality, I'm pretty straightforward. I'm not going to be the guy that's rah in the locker room. I love intensity, but I try to do my work through my actions and the way that I present myself. So, I think I've seen all types of leaders, and I think the biggest thing is to just be yourself.
And the reason I wanted to start with that Eberle clip is because I do think there was juice, baby. There was juice in that second frame for the Seattle Kraken. And it's none other than Vince Dunn, who, yes, was playing alongside Adam Larson. Vince Dunn gets the first goal of the season in the second frame and put the Seattle Kraken up just 27 seconds into the second stanza, as I like to say. And then, oh my gosh, a beautiful goal from Eberle Tolvanen from Riker Evans. And here we are. The Seattle Kraken had this crowd going up on a Tuesday afternoon in Seattle. We were feeling good. I thought Philip Grubauer was in the zone. And then the Kraken started doing Kraken crap. You know, if you've every day or an OGer, you know what this hand signal means. Kraken crap. What do I mean by that? Turnovers off the face-off. One of the St. Louis goals was on a breakaway. That second goal, Philip Grubauer, I think he might want that back. We didn't hear from him in the locker room, but he might want that back. And that goes back to what Eberle was saying about 4 or so minutes in the second frame where the juice was maybe over squeezed. And what do I mean by that? Because you have 2 goals, you have the momentum, and then things started getting chippy. It was, matching penalties, majors, 5-minute majors, 2-minute minors, and it just got, the flow was gone. The juice was not flowing. It was spilt on the floor. The Moxy maybe got the juice was juicing a little too much. And what am I talking about? Why am I saying juice? Why am I saying Moxy? Because before the game, I asked Dan Bylsma about how he set up training camp and preseason. If you listen to the show, you know I have not liked how the Seattle Kraken approached training camp for at least the last 2 seasons. Because in my estimation, we came into the first game of the season looking lethargic, looking lost, and looking tired and fatigued. How do you start a season tired and fatigued? Either you're out of shape coming into the season or you got overworked. And let me tell you, as someone who has been to almost every Seattle Kraken training camp except for one, I'm going to tell you, the only time that maybe the Seattle Kraken got overworked in training camp was under Dan Bylsma. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But there's something about what Dan said that gives me hope. I don't like the result. Again, you heard from Eberle. We're going to hear from Dan Bylsma both before the game talking about the juice. We'll hear about him after the game. And, these are things that are fixable. But what you can't fix is a team that shows up with no juice, with no Moxy, with no sandpaper, with no piss and vinegar. And I don't think that's going to be a problem this season. Did it happen? Were there slips? There was some slippage today? Absolutely. But Eberle addressed it with us in media. Dan Bylsma addressed it with us in media. So I can only think that it was something that was discussed in the locker room. So maybe got a little overjuiced because after getting those 2 goals, the penalty minutes, 13 penalty minutes for the Seattle Kraken, 11 penalty minutes for the St. Louis Blues. Now, the difference was the Blues were able to convert on their power play, whereas, unfortunately, once again, we see a goose egg for the Seattle Kraken. So let me talk to you about this juice. What am I talking about? Here's Dan Bylsma as far as his approach to training camp. And no, it's not so much about conditioning, but it is about the Moxy and the juice.
How much of what you wanted to do in preparation for today and beyond was about Moxy? I'm from New York. I don't know what
juice.
Yeah, exactly. Juice versus also just conditioning. Making sure the team was the most fit they could possibly be coming into today's game. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we're talking about if you said juice, and it's really more the mentality of what we're going to do every night and what we're going to do every day on the ice, and if we want to be a skating team and a fast team, it means we're going to have to be in good condition to be able to do it. I think having the depth of our team allows us to have a lot of people that can do it, not just counting on one guy or two guys to bring that juice and bring that jam and that speed. It's coming throughout our lineup, and that's a positive thing for the group. And I think, again, it's for me, it's not so much conditioning as it is mentality. You have to be ready. You have to be willing to play fast with the execution of the puck and fast with your feet and be a skating team. That's as much as conditioning as it is mentality.
I love that. I freaking love that. You can hear in how I phrased the question. I was trying to, I mean, there were maybe some more brash things that came to my mind at first, but I want passion. I want energy. I want the 3 F's. Fun, fast, forechecking. And so does Dan Bylsma. You heard it in that clip. He talked about it's the juice. You heard Jordan Eberle say that he's not necessarily a rah-rah kind of talk you into inspiration kind of captain. But to me, that makes him the perfect captain under the Disco Dan era. Coming up next on Locked On Kraken, just a few other takeaways from the overall experience here at Climate Pledge Arena. Even though the Seattle Kraken did not walk away with the win, I got to tell you, this is probably the most joyful I have felt after a Seattle Kraken opener in, the history of the Seattle Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And the NHL season is officially upon us just after the Seattle Kraken game here at Climate Pledge Arena. We saw the Stanley Cup banner go up. That's right, the Florida Panthers, last I checked, were up a goal on the Boston Bruins. And, it's hockey season. But you know what? FanDuel right now has something for you NFL fans. Right now, you can win big with a big return at FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the play-by-play, and so much more directly on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go visit FanDuel.com. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. And again, we've been talking about it. We talked about it with Zame on Thursday. How do you like those over-under odds? The Seattle Kraken, 87.5 wins on the season. We got a little taste. Are you taking the over? Are you taking the under? Well, either way, you can do both. Well, either way, you can do that and so much more at FanDuel.com. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. So glad I could make it back here to Climate Pledge Arena to see the Disco Dan era. I tweeted that the whole staff got introduced today, and I think I was being a little generous because to me, the most heartwarming celebration or roar from the crowd came when Jessica Campbell was announced. Of course, we've talked about Jessica Campbell on this podcast. We've had Jessica Campbell on the podcast. But the cool thing was, as I was walking up to Climate Pledge Arena, they set up a blue carpet so the players could be greeted by the fans when they came to the arena. They entered right by where we usually do, by the press entrance. And as I was hobbling in, for some of you who've seen me around Seattle, I still have my walking boot on. I saw women's hockey players, someone that I've been covering for years in the NWHL. Alyssa Gallardi, Blair Turnbull was here, and other players from Hockey Canada. And for someone that comes from the women's hockey space, to see such elite level women's hockey players converge here in Seattle to support Jessica Campbell, that alone was very special for me. It was also great to see the Seattle Kraken walking in. Joey Decord, the mayor, got a really great response from the crowd. I didn't get to see all the players walk in because I had to get ready. The clip that you saw from me asking Dan Bilesma the question that came pregame, again, there was no morning skate, which, I do like practice, but I was okay with no morning skate for today. It just was a good vibe. The vibes were good here. If you were here, let me know. Question of the day. What did you think about the vibes for the first ever home opener? So this is the season opener, but the Seattle Kraken have never started their season at home. We would have liked to get the win. And there's some things I'm not pleased with, just like Eberle, but I think overall there's so much growth that this team is still going to have in its future that I'm not going to nitpick, at least not right now. We've got a whole season for that. Overall, the vibes were good. Jessica Campbell got a roaring, just a roaring welcome from the crowd. And Dan Bilesma was asked a little bit about that post-game. Here's what he had to say.
Dan, aside from the result of the game, you're standing there next to Jessica during pregame intros. I'm wondering what you were thinking as she was introduced and got the reaction that she did.
I was waiting to see if the reaction to me was going to be as loud. It wasn't.
We talked about it before. Jessica Campbell doesn't really like to sit in that she's the first woman to be a bench boss, a full-time bench boss in the National Hockey League. That's not something that she likes to focus on. She likes to stay out of the limelight. She tried to stay stern-faced when she was shown on the Twins, which you can see one of them behind me. And but you saw just the slightest smile, but it came after a little bit of shock and awe. I don't think she expected that the crowd was going to receive her so well. And Dan even said that he thinks she got the louder ovation. And you know what? I kind of thought so too, but they were pretty close. I just think it's amazing. And I'm so excited to see what this coaching staff, the whole coaching staff, is going to do, because there's just an energy. I know Dan Bilesma, now I know he calls it juice. I call it Moxy. Maybe it's sandpaper, piss, and vinegar like Ryan Donato used to say. Either way, there is an injection of energy into this team, and it goes back to what Dan told me before the game. That is by design, and I love it. That is by design, and I absolutely love it. This is going to be a team, once the Moxy starts flowing, and it is an innate part of how this team plays, there is no stopping it. That's what Dan wants from this team, and he said as much in the last practice before the home opener. Let's take you back to Monday at Kraken Community Iceplex when Dan Bilesma identified what he wants this team to play like throughout the season.
The goal for me as a coach is to have the opposition know exactly what they're going to get from us every night, how we're going to compete and how we're going to play, and put it out there every chance we get so that they are talking about how we play. They know what to expect from the Seattle Kraken every night they play us.
Can you tell I'm hype? I don't know that I've ever been this worked up and excited in a positive way after a Seattle Kraken loss in a really long time. The vibes are feeling good, but vibes alone are not going to get this team to where they want to be. And, Jordan Eberle said that as well on yesterday. He said it again today. And I like the direction. I like that there is leadership as coaching staff, as well as in Jordan Eberle officially being the captain. I called him the de facto captain for a really long time. After hard losses, Eberle's who they brought out. Eberle has been the captain, Big C captain for this team for a while. To make it official, I'm so excited. Eberle has never been a captain ever in his hockey career, but has always been an alternate, been among leaders. And I cannot wait to see what Dan Bilesma, and the rest of the coaching staff can do with this team that not only is wanting to lick the wounds and heal from pretty much I don't even know what we call last season. It's in the past, but it's not the type of team that this franchise wants to be known as. And there's a real opportunity to turn the tide in Seattle. And yes, that starts today. And so the team is going to be hungry when they hit the ice again. They'll be going on the road. So we won't see the Seattle Kraken in Seattle at Climate Pledge Arena for a little bit here. But what I do hope is that we see the grit. We see the hard work start to pay off. I do think they got a little bit too juiced up at times, a little too many penalties and fighting. You know, I'm not always into that. I don't like that part of hockey. And sometimes you got to let people know that you're not a punk. And I will say the Seattle Kraken sent that message loud and clear, not just today, but through the preseason as well. And you know what? As much as I really don't care for fighting in hockey, I'm okay with that because there were times in the past where the Seattle Kraken, I've said it before on the podcast, Jared McCann, Matty Beniers were easy targets because we just didn't have enough players that were willing to take other teams to task, whether by making it hurt on the scoreboard or making it hurt by mushing them in the face. So, you know, I don't love it. I don't want it to go too far on a consistent basis, but I'm okay with the physicality to start the season. I don't like the loss. I didn't think Philip Grubauer was necessarily 100% sharp the whole game. I think that second goal he probably would want back. But what is interesting, and I posted this clip before today's game, the full media availability, the full media availability with Dan Bylsma yesterday at practice. And what we do know is, although Dan Bylsma might not tell us who the starter is at morning skate, he is expecting to work both goaltenders as much as possible early in the season. He talked about needing both goaltenders, having good goaltending, and the only way the duo works is if both get a chance. So Philip Grubauer, he got his shot today. I posted that. Some people were disappointed with the choice. I understand. I don't know what the decision was. Dan didn't get into any detail. Maybe it has to do a little bit with veteran leadership. Do I think one goaltender necessarily stood out when compared to the other in preseason? Not really. But again, for me, I don't think we needed to worry about goaltending as much coming into this season. So it's going to be curious to see if, first of all, both of our goaltenders can stay healthy enough to make a competition out of the starting position. But again, at least early in the season, it sounds like the Seattle Kraken plan is to give, I don't know if you want to say equal, but at least somewhat equitable ice time to both of their netminders. And you know what? I'm okay with that, at least for now. I'm still, if I'm being honest, just between you and me, right? If I'm being honest, I'm kind of rooting for Joey Dax. I think I might want to see Joey Decourt a little bit more than Philip Grubauer, but that's just me. That's a personal preference. But we'll see what happens. Either way, what I think you and I both want is a goaltender that's locked in, that's focused, and that can help the Seattle Kraken win. But that's predicated on the Seattle Kraken doing everything that they need to do. And let's be honest, they didn't do it today. Turnovers off of faceoffs, a lack of communication lapses, as Jordan Eberle said in Compete. Those are fixable things. Still frustrating to see them in game one, but they're fixable. So let's see if the Seattle Kraken can go do it. So there's your upcoming schedule. The Seattle Kraken will take on Minnesota on Saturday. Then they take on Dallas. So they'll have a back-to-back. There you go. We'll get to see both goaltenders. And then Nashville before a 4-game homestand where they will entertain the likes of Philadelphia, Calgary, Colorado, and Winnipeg. And they end the October month on the road when they take on Montreal and Toronto. So and they'll end October on the road as they take on Montreal and Toronto in Canada. I said it before, the next few months, at least on paper, are not going to be a cakewalk for the Seattle Kraken. I want them to maintain the intensity that they had at pockets in today's game, Tuesday's game, and stretch that out with consistency, with determination, with drive, and, with a direction. So now we've got the 3 Fs and these. So there's still some things that this team has to work on. I have faith and confidence, though, that this is the right coaching staff and the right leadership to get them there. So, as always, be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, hold fast, stay true, and 'tis the season that we say loud and proud, let's go Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.